Hey guys, it's April. This is going to be a Patreon annual supporter or PASO file, PASO, um, for the month of March. This is one of the files you're going to get this month for being an annual supporter. Now this one's a little bit different. You are going to need a thermal laminating pouch to do this technique that I'm doing. But if you don't have it, don't panic. You can use Cricut foil acetate and just skip the stamping part. But we're going to be stamping on one of these laminating pouches on the inside. And then we're going to heat it, and then we're going to use that as our acetate. So basically, we're making our own personalized window. So I'm going to cut this down. I believe this is 8.5 by 11. It's actually 9. So I'm going to cut it right down the middle at 4.5. And give myself 2 sheets. Now, other people that do this, they do put a piece of scrap cardstock up at the top down here so that it won't jam into your laminating machine. So I'm going to grab a piece and show you that really quick. And here we are. So, I mean, nothing fancy, doesn't have to be cut even, anything. It's just going to, because when you laminate things, you always have something inside there when you feed it into your laminator. So we're just going to put that up at the top of both of these. Now I'm going to be stamping 2 different colors. You will need a pigment ink for this. Dye inks will not work. I'm just gonna. So now I have those set up. Let's grab our stamping tool. I've had this stamp for a while. I believe it's an Elizabeth craft. It's called Blooming Branches. 2019 Technique Tuesdays. So I believe I got it from Elizabeth Craft. I don't know. But this is the stamp that I plan to use. And I'm going to do mine in, I'm using Close to My Heart's black pigment ink. And I'm also going to do one in the White Daisy pigment ink. Any pigment inks are supposed to work for this. And we've done it with acetate, things like that before. I know that you guys have done that. Or some of you may have, you may not have. But the acetate that can take heat is very expensive. And a lot of people don't want, it's hard to find too. So a lot of people don't want to go through that. So I am just going to lay this on my Misty, and I'm going to use the Heartfelt in the window too. My area is approximately 2.5 by 4, I believe it was. So I picked a stamp that would fit my window, and I'm just going to set it up the way that I want it to show there. Oops, I need to pick that up. I may have to condition my stamp. Give me just a moment. So I just used a baby wipe on it. That one's stuck. So I'm just going to bring it in so I know where it's at. That looks good. Now that I know that that is the position that I want it, I'm just going to get that all lined up. Just in case I don't get a good stamp the first time, I want to be able to stamp it again. So we're just going to ink up that stamp. Let me see if I can get... You want to ink it up really good. And then we're just going to get hold of it. I'm having issues today. Just going to stamp that image down. Now you are going to need to let this dry. Oh, that looks really, really good. So I'm just going to pull this out, and I'm going to set it off to the side to dry. I'm going to clean my... Okay guys, so I did run them through the laminator, and I noticed that when I went to close this one, even though I waited 15 minutes, my white took a lot longer to dry. It wasn't quite dry, and it just kind of got mushy. So that didn't work for me, but the black worked beautifully. So make sure that your ink is good and dry before you close your pouch, because I closed my pouch and I noticed a slight smudge, so I knew it wasn't dry. But my black was dry and came out great with great results. Now this will be trimmed by hand, so I'm going to go ahead and cut my card base from my Cricut design space, and then I'm going to come back and then we'll trim this up together. Okay guys, here we are, we're back. Let me get rid of that keyboard. I have cut everything. Now I did emboss. I'm gonna turn this exposure down just a little bit so that you guys can see. I don't want to blind you with that white cardstock, but I did, there we go. I did emboss this piece. You can do that if you want. If you don't, that's fine too. Now I saved the piece that came out of that blue area, and I also saved the one that came out of the white area. The white area is your largest one, so you want to make sure that you cut this just a little bit larger than your piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a piece of tape. I'm just going to flip mine over and place it on there so I can see where it's going to land. And I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm just going to tape this piece. I moved it. I'm going to tape it down. That's what I'm going to do. Let me just get my tape on there. And I can move it. Just want to hold it for a second while I trim. So I'm just going to place that paper down with its tape on there, and then I'm just going to line that up like I want it to show. And now I know where to trim without having any guesswork on it. And I do want to cut it slightly larger than this white piece, because that white piece, the edge is going to hold it in. So I'm just going to cut that down. And we can always trim it down, so don't worry. If it's not exact, it'll be okay. Because I know this is a lot larger and it's going to hang out, and that's all right. I'd rather it hang out than me cut it too short and have to start over. So now I'm just going to peel that tape off. And the transparency that you end up with is nice and thick. Your ink isn't going to scratch off, anything like that. So now I just need to place that and make sure that it's not going to overhang, and it is. So I'm just going to bring that in. I think I'm just going to glue it down and then trim. I want it narrower. All right, I'm going to go with my scissors, guys. I'm going to go with my gut. And I might be wrong, but okay. Just going to trim a tiny bit off. And I'm going to come up here and trim a tiny bit off. Just one in there. And of course you could probably put it in and cut it on your Cricut if you want. You may get off on the cut though, and then it won't fit. And that, I think I got it. I might trim just a tiny bit more off, just for good measure. I mean, just a minute. Just don't want it hanging out. I mean, I cut teeny tiny little slivers. That was it. So now I am going to get my scoring tape, and that's what I'm going to use on the, I think I'm going to use art glitter glue. So I'm going to use some art glitter, and I'm just going to go right around my window here. You don't want to get too much. You don't want it to get up on your window, but you can probably get it off if it does. Embossing this does make this piece a little bit more fragile. Make sure you mirror it. I've got mine backwards. It's supposed to be backwards if you're doing it on this piece. Like this. Just gonna get my baby wipe here. Don't want to be gluing everything. And I did get it on my window. Just gonna go in there and clean that off. That stick back up there. That's the one that had white ink on it. No wonder it's leaving something. I was like, what's that on there? And it's white ink. I definitely don't want that on there. Get a fresh wipe. I thought I threw that one away. I threw the wrong one away. I wanted to dry that off just a little bit. It was just a little, my baby wipe was a little too wet. I thought I had set one out so it could start drying in case, and I grabbed the wrong one. I guess I threw away the wrong one is what I should say. All right, that's better. Got that white ink off of there. All right, so now we're going to line this piece up onto this piece, and that's what's going to give it its stability. This is not going to be very stable until then, and it's okay if it hangs off just a little bit. If your stamp does, it's not going to hurt anything. And we're going to glue that whole panel down. Super easy, simple card. You can use, like I said, Cricut acetate, the foil acetate, just to give it some interest. Or if you have a laminator and you don't have a stamp, you can toss a little bit of glitter or some party foil. You can do some confetti and put some party foil in the pouch and then laminate it. That will work. I'm just going to come along that edge. And now we're going to glue this piece right down here. I think I have that straight. I probably should stand up to see that. So now we have that panel on. This is going to be so pretty. And of course you want to fold your cardstock. Now I had it right. Thanks for all you do on the inside. You are limited. I did a stamp, and what I did is I closed this up. I sat it in my MISTI, and I placed my stamp to make sure I was not hanging out in the window here. And then after I placed my stamp on the MISTI, I opened it up, and then I stamped this area. And I know that it hangs off. I wanted that. I didn't want a full stamp on there. Guys, you can do so much with your stamps and your Cricut. And your embossing folders. You can still use all the goodies in your craft room and your Cricut. You can incorporate all those things together. And then I'm going to stick this on that base. I'm just going to open it up so it sits flat for now. And I'm going to put that on there. I got a little art glitter glue in that corner. I'm just going to push it out to the outer edge. It will dry matte and clear on there on that cardstock, so it's okay. So now our window is sandwiched in between there. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay. nice and pretty. And then I have a little thank you tag, or a thanks. It says thanks. I don't know where I want to put it or if I want to use that. I think I do, because it says a heartfelt and then thanks. Trying to decide. I think I like it there. So that's where that guy's going to live. And I finally got my foam dots from Close to My Heart. They were on back order. And I ran it. I think I have 2 left. I think I got down to 2. And I think I'll use the big dots for this, 2 of those. Just to pop them up and make sure it sticks, because it's embossed. So you want to have as much stick room as you can. Oops. I left that one down there. There we go. And then we're going to place that right there. Love. Just a little dimension on it, not much. And then I'm going to be using Aquatic Mist glitter drops, Nuvo glitter drops. I'm gonna get my scrap paper here, make sure it's coming up. And then I'm just gonna do a few different size dots on there just to punch it up a little bit, kind of following the curves of my embossing folder. Nothing major, just a few drops. Let me turn this exposure down. Maybe you guys can see it a little bit better. There we go. I don't think I'll put one in that corner. And then I'm going to come over here and do the same thing. Just playing around with the lines on the embossing folder. I've got some dots and stuff on there from the flowers. So I'm just going to punch those up and go along the curve of those 3D flowers. And maybe right there in the center of that one. I'll give it a good big one. I'm happy with that. I think I'll stop right there. Sometimes less is more. But super easy, super simple. And then you have that clear window in there. So it's going to be pretty when they get it. It's going to be pretty when they open it up. And you still have space to sign over here without getting into your window. So make sure that you're not blocking that up and getting it, getting stuff that will show through the window. You want it to be hidden. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that file and that technique. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.